supposed to be the best contact paper for countertops on the market right now. So of course, I had to buy it. I had to buy it. Wow. I gotta show you this material.
This is absolutely gorgeous.
My heart is so happy right now. Probably gonna laugh at me, but I'm gonna install a piece of this over my real quartz countertops that I spent a fortune on, just to show you what they look like against real quartz.
Let's start by talking about the size of the roll. So the size that you want for countertops is a 36-inch wide roll because an average countertop is 25.5 inches wide. So what you'll do is a horizontal install. So you're going to start at the edge of your counter, and then you are essentially going to roll the paper over. But make sure that you secure the paper really good as you start to roll, because this stuff is really thick and it's also really strong. So I made sure that the edges of this were nice and tight, and then I moved into installing the rest of it. Now you just simply roll it over your counter. I have squared edges, so this is a little bit easier to do than if you had rounded edges. So I'm just smoothing out the contact paper with a wallpapering tool that I already had. And then as I'm going along, I am taking my time. This is really truly the most important thing, is that you want to get all of the bubbles out as you are going along. So don't take the roll and roll it all out at once, because that's how you're going to get bubbles. So what I do is I work in very small sections. Yes, it is time consuming, but the end look is much better because I'm working in these 2 to 3 inch sections. And you'll see here that I do about, let's say 3 inches. I don't know. I didn't measure it, but that is what I did. And then I worked the paper and any bubbles that were popping up as I was going along. And I know I'm saying that a lot, but it's true. You really have to be patient and go over the contact paper multiple times to just prevent that. So here I was able to pull it out because I am not doing a full install. This is simply just testing the contact paper for y'all to see how it does in multiple different styles of tests, but also how it's installing. And this installed beautifully. Now let's talk about the corners and how we do them. So when I got to the corner, all I did is I got scissors and I basically cut it where the countertop started, after the edge. So you'll see here that I'm doing a straight line exactly where the countertop started. And I do this because I basically fold it like a present. There might be a better way to do this, but for me, I feel like it looks really good when I do it this way with my square countertops, because it allows it to have a seam where the corner starts naturally with the countertops. So that is what I did. I secured the paper underneath and then I pulled it nice and tight on the corner. Now you may have to kind of trim the paper around the corner once you get to that part, but you can see here that corner looks pretty good. And then I'm going to go around and get all of the air pockets and bubbles out. You saw I got a crease right there, so I pulled it up before I made the crease worse. It's very important to adjust as you're doing this. Now you can use a blow dryer. I would suggest that, but here I just wanted to install it without a blow dryer and just see how it did. And it installed incredibly well without having to use a blow dryer to stretch it around the corners. So I secured it really good with my wallpapering tool around the edges, and then I had to trim. So I just took scissors and I left about 1/2 of an inch because that's what my underlip is for my particular countertops. So then I could secure it underneath and wrap it. So that is exactly what I did. I didn't make it pretty or anything like that because I knew it was going under my countertops. So once I secured that, I just pushed it. Again, you can use a blow dryer, but I don't think that it's necessary for this contact paper because It is so thick and durable. It's working really well without having to stretch it and secure it. So that was it. Contact paper, real quartz. Now that it's installed, it feels really good. It does have a slight texture to it, but I do want to run it through some tests. So on the first day, I just went ahead and cut some apples on it, and it was doing just fine. I was checking for if it was cutting the paper, and it was not cutting the paper at all. So I went ahead, sliced it up as much as I possibly could. This makes me incredibly happy. So I cut that apple up. There isn't a single scratch on here. I can actually take my knife and go like this, and it's not cutting it because of how thick this paper is. Since that went so well, I got a lot of requests to do a test with some food products that would stain and cleaning it with some harsher cleaning products. So I left the ketchup on for like 45 minutes. And then instead of coming in with like a wet paper towel to clean it up, I just used a dry paper towel because I did want to see what it was going to do to the contact paper. Like if it was going to leave a tint to it or not. Like, is it going to stain? I could definitely tell during this test that there was a pinkish reddish tint to it. So I kind of just continued to smear the ketchup into the contact paper because I really truly wanted to see just what it did without using any sort of cleaning and just using kind of a dry cleanup method. I don't know. These tests are fun to me just to see what they do. So then I grabbed the Clorox disinfectant cleaner that I had because this was like the only one that I had. And yes, it's for bathrooms, but it's fine. It's fine. So I sprayed this on and I started to clean it up. And you could see here now that kind of red pink tint that was there was definitely disappearing with the Clorox. So in this instance, I feel like it did incredibly well, and I spread it around and I did like a lot to try and like see what it did. After letting that sit for a while, I then soaked the paper as best as I could just to see how it would just wipe up with again after getting soaked. So it was just soaked and a dry wipe, and the paper cleaned up incredibly well. Again, I was really happy, and I did get the water like sprayed over to the seams as well. So it was on both of my countertops and the contact paper, and the contact paper was not lifting up, which I hope it wouldn't because this is supposed to be water resistant because they did put a laminate over this vinyl, and it did incredibly well. So this was me just kind of finalizing the drying process. Now I wanted to actually rip this up because I wanted to make sure that it was in fact not going to leave residue. This particular brand claims that it's not going to leave residue. When I did the initial adhesive test, I could definitely tell that it was not going to leave residue. So it did come up really strong. I find that when I stick contact paper to like a mirror or a surface like this, quartz, the contact paper does adhere stronger than other materials. I am not an expert on that, so yes, but it was coming up incredibly clean, and I was able to just simply rip it up how I thought it would rip up. Now, I will say that this contact paper is on the stronger side, but it's not a adhesive that's like tacky, I would say. So it doesn't, like when you feel it, it does not have any residue that like ends up on your fingertips, which happens a lot with contact paper. So once I was able to rip this up, I had no residue whatsoever left over, which is what the brand claimed would happen. So I was incredibly happy with this result. This is a 10 out of 10. If you've ever thought about doing contact paper on your countertops to change the look of your kitchen, this is it.
I'm obsessed. This is a wonderful find. A wonderful find.